There's a famous quote: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. However, that's exactly what most law firms are doing. How can you expect to improve your service offering if you are not collecting feedback from your customers? If anything, most law firms are collecting their reviews online, on Google, Trustpilot, but only from people that actually like the service and are focusing less on those that didn't. In my opinion, this second group is much more important because they actually give you an opportunity to improve your service offering and level up your game in the long run. Now, as your firm scales, getting feedback from your customers becomes more challenging. You are no longer, as the owner, interacting with all your clients. It's mostly your staff members doing so. And also it's becoming harder to track all of your cases, right? To which ones have you sent out those requests, to which ones you didn't. Now, luckily, there is a framework that has been developed to track customer satisfaction across all range of services and products. It's called NPS, or Net Promoter Score. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how you can automate the process of sending out NPS scores to all of your customers, so that whenever you close a matter inside of Clio Manage, an automatic email goes out to the customer asking for their feedback. They can then very easily leave their rating and an additional comment in just a few clicks directly from their email. And when we actually get that response back, you will be able to store it as a custom field inside of your Clio Manage account and be able to run reporting based on that. Not only that, but you'll also get a dashboard where you'll be able to track all of the responses that are coming in over time, have an automatic calculation of the 30-day NPS score, and see the progression of your NPS as time goes on. Let's get going. Hey there, my name is Martin Kravchenko, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Swans, where we help law firm owners and operators set up their technology systems right from the get-go to increase profitability of their firm and scale their practice. Now, let's get going and see the tutorial. Now, to set up the automated sending of NPS surveys in Clio Manage, we'll need three things. First of all, we'll need to set up a form in some software such as, for example, Delighted, which will allow us to then collect this information and actually send out the email to the customer. Now, you can use this software, you can use others. There's SurveyMonkey, there's Zoho Survey, there's a lot of different options on the market. For this particular case, I'll be using this one, which seems to be quite popular. The second thing that we'll need is a Zapier automation that will trigger when a Clio Manage matter is closed and then send out the email through that software that of our choosing, in this case Delighted, to the customer. And lastly, what we'll need is another Zapier automation that triggers when a response is received from the client, so we can log that data inside of our Clio Manage account on that matter, and then potentially run some analytics and reporting based on the data. Now, fun fact, I just opened up Zapier today, and there we go. I got a pop-up. How likely are you to recommend Zapier to a friend or colleague? They're asking me for the NPS of using their software. So as you can see, across all industries, this metric is extremely important. Let's now actually start setting things up. I have just signed up for Delighted, and here's the onboarding sequence. I'll walk you through step by step as I'm setting up the form and then the automations. So what kind of feedback would you like to get? Let's choose the Net Promoter Score, choose and customize. In here, we'll be able to define our brand or product name. So let's say Swans. There we go. You can see the preview of how that's going to be look like in here. We can also add a logo in here. So let me go ahead and do that. There we go. Logo added, looking much better. Based on that, it also inherited the color of the button of the top bar. In here, we can customize the actual question that we're asking. So the basic one is how likely are you to recommend Swans to a friend? You may change it to something else, such as, for example, how likely are you to recommend Swans legal services to a friend or a colleague? There we go. Intro message and translation. You can potentially do translations to different languages if you would want. And also any comments. So tell us about why you chose a particular score. I think we can keep it as is. If you want, you can also skip the common question and just collect, the basic information. Let's go to next and additional questions. So here you can add any other questions that you would want, scales, they're collecting their email, collecting their name. Now, in this case, we'll already be pre-filling all of the data as we are sending that through our automation in Zapier. So we don't actually need to be adding any of these fields over here. We can just leave it as is. We can then also customize the thank you page, right? We can also customize the message dependent on the score. For now, let's leave it as is. Thanks, we really appreciate your feedback. Click next and finish. The basic setup of the NPS software is now complete. It has now generated a link for us if you would want to place it on your website or your client portal. For now, disregard that because we'll be sending these invitations out automatically to Zapier. Step 1 is now complete. Let's now go to step 2. Creating the Zapier automation will actually send out these invitations to the customers once a Clio Manage matter is closed. Head over to Zapier, click Create, Zaps, and let's start building this. I'll rename this to NPS score sending. And then as a trigger, we'll choose Clio Manage. Clio. The event will be matter status updated. For the account, I have already set up a connection previously. If not, just log into your account. Very easy to authenticate. Click continue. The event that we're going to be tracking will be matter closed. And then let's click continue. And test triggered will just pull one of the latest updates. So you can use it as a test record over here. Fantastic. All right. So as for the next event, for the next action, right? This will be delighted. In here, the action that we are going to be performing is called send email survey. So send an email platform survey. The account in here, how we connect to it is we need to head over to our integrations page over here on the delighted platform. There we go. Scroll down to find Zapier. And then if you click on it, it will display your delighted API key. So just copy this, go back to Zapier, click connect. And you'll just need to paste this API key into this field over here. Click yes, continue to delighted. It will authenticate Zapier with your account. Fantastic, delighted swans. Let's click continue. Here we'll need to define the details of the person that will be sending the email to. So in the email field, we'll use the client email that we get from Clio Manage in the trigger. So client primary email address. In the name, we'll use the full client name. If you would want to delay, we can also quite easily put it into here. So for example, 1 day, 1 week after the case is closed, send out the survey, can all be done in here. And then properties in here, that is a very important setup point that we need to configure. Let's now go into the configuration, click continue. In here, we'll need to enter the details of the person we are going to be sending the survey to. So as for the email, we'll be using the client email, the client primary email address that we get from step number 1 from the trigger from Clio Manage. The name will be the full client name. If you would want to delay, so for example, send out the NPS score 1 day, 1 week after the case is closed, you can define this quite easily in here. And finally, for the properties, very important setup point, we can use it to track what specific matter has this survey been linked to. So that when then we receive back the response from the person, we can actually link it to a specific matter, update the data that we have in Clio Manage, and then run the reporting based on that. So in here, we'll add the matter ID of the Clio Manage matter. So let's create a new key called Clio Manage matter ID. You can call it whatever you want. And then as a value, we'll have the ID field coming from the first step. Again, so when we receive the response, we can easily link it back to it. Let's click continue now, and we'll test the step to see how it looks like in practice. Now, just like that, the request was generated. We get the request ID, when it was scheduled at, and any information that we introduced. Let's see how it looks like in the inbox. A quick life hack before we actually see the email. If you would want to test out this automation, right, the sending of the email survey to not one of actual clients, obviously you don't want to do that straight away, but to one of your email addresses, you could either create a Clio Manage matter and use that as a test record in the Zapier automation, or you could actually just what's called hard code, right, or just write statically your email address in here and then test it out like that, right? Just remember, obviously, once you are ready to publish this automation, to change back the email to a dynamic field, pull in the client primary email address in here. So we have received our email in here. How likely are you to recommend Swan's legal services to a friend or a colleague? We can see our logo, and then we can see the form that the user can easily click. So let's imagine now they say 9. Then ask to tell us a bit more about why they chose this particular response. So let's say great response times. Click submit. Thanks, we really appreciate your feedback. Now, at this point, the response is already locked inside of delighted. So let's head over there. First of all, in the People's tab, tab over here, you'll be able to see any of the people that you've created through Zapier, right? So we have our Mary Gonzalez and their email over here. And then in the dashboards, you'll be able to see all of the responses. The software is automatically calculating the NPS score using a specific formula over here. And then we can see a log of all the responses that we got in the last few days, right? So Mary Gonzalez, great response times. If you also then go to reports, you'll be able to run some more analytics based upon it. So for example, see in each month, how many promoters, passives, or detractors do you have? And also in the snapshot over here, what are they actually saying in terms of their comments? Now let's head over to now Zapier and actually turn this on. So I'll click publish. Zap is now live, and we can actually test out a matter, actually close a matter inside of Clio Manage and see if it then triggers the sending of the email. So I have a matter here for Claudine, an MVE matter. Let's scroll down to the status, change it to closed. Okay, the matter has now been marked as closed, and see if we then get this email into our inbox. There we go. The email has just appeared. How likely to recommend someone's legal services to a friend or a colleague. If we go into our Zapier automation, we can check in the Zap runs our logs. Just click refresh over here. There we go. We can see that we have received the data from Clio as soon as the matter was closed from Claudine. And then that the email survey has been sent to them at their email address. Fantastic, right? And again, obviously, we can respond in here. And as mentioned before, you can see a list of all the people that you have added under the People tab inside of Delighted. Now, at this point in time, we already have a working solution, right? If you want to just track the responses directly within the Delighted platform, you can already do so. You can run all your analytics in there. Now, step 3 that I talked about, optional, right? But what if you want to then also push back the data about the responses into Clio Manage and actually be able to then potentially run some reporting and analytics directly inside of Clio Manage based on that information? We can do that with a separate Zapier automation. So let's see how we set that up. Now, before we actually go into the automation design, we need to set up a few things on the Clio Manage side of things, right? So we need to have a field where we'll actually be storing, right, the data about the response. So for example, the response score, any comments that they have left, and also the latest, for example, submission date. So let's go into settings inside of our Clio Manage account, then navigate to custom fields, and then we'll create a few new custom fields over here. Let's click add. We'll call it NPS latest score. This will be an integer. I also mark it as default, so it will be applied to all new existing matters. And in addition to that, we'll say NPS latest comment, which will be a text field, multi-line. So again, default applied to all existing matters. And finally, NPS latest received date. And this will be a date type. Again, default and applied to all existing matters. Fantastic. So we have these 3 new fields enabled. If we now go to our matter, we'll be able to see that they have appeared under our custom field set in here, NPS. Fantastic. Let's now head to Zapier and build that automation in there. All right, I'll go out of here, click Create, Zaps, and the trigger this time will obviously be delighted. Delighted. The trigger for our event will be a new response. Triggers when a new response is received in the delighted project. The account is the same as we've connected before. Now keep in mind that this is a polling response, so we'll refresh every 2 minutes. Let's click continue. We can test the trigger to get our latest, or one of the latest responses. There we go. We have our response that we have just submitted, right? The 9 great response times from Mary Gonzalez. And in here, as you can see, we have under this person properties, we have our Clio Manage matter ID, right? We'll then use this field to map it back to the Clio Manage matter in just a moment. Let's click continue with the selected record. Let's type in Clio in here. And the action that we'll want is update matter. There we go. Let's click continue. The matter that will be updated over here will be a custom value coming from our trigger, right? So if we just type in Clio here, person properties Clio Manage matter ID, fantastic. And the things that we want to change are obviously those custom NPS fields. If you scroll down over here in custom fields, you'll be able to see them. The latest score will be the score that we got in here. The latest comment will be the comment, and obviously latest received date will be today's date. Let's see whether we can use one of these. I think we'll be able to use one of these, created at. Now, as for the latest received date, we'll need to do some additional formatting because the output that we are getting from the trigger doesn't actually contain a proper date field. It does contain one in Unix format, but unfortunately Clio Manage will not be able to read that inside of this field. So we'll need to add a formatter step in between these two. Just click formatter in here. In the action event, choose date time. Click continue. In the transform, choose format. And in here in the input, we will use the created at timestamp that we get from the trigger. And then we're going to convert it to a more readable format. In this case, the one that works is this year, month, date. Okay, so let's use that. Make sure that you're translating it to your time zone. So let's say, for example, US Arizona. And then the from format field will be this X option, meaning a timestamp. Essentially this number that we are getting in here. The time zone, you can leave it as is, as UTC. Let's click continue, see if this works. Let's test out the step. There we go. As the output, we now get today's date and year, month, date format. Let's click continue. And then we're going to update our NPS latest received date in here with this value that we get from the second step. Now let's click continue. We're going to be sending this data to Clio Manage, right? The Clio Manage ID, and then the 3 NPS fields. Let's head over to that old matter, which is connected to this test record for first submission inside of Delighted. It was this Gonzalez one. As you can see at this point in time, all of these custom field values in here for NPS are empty. Let's head back to Zapier and click test step. So there we go, that has been executed successfully. Let's go back to Clio and refresh the page. And just like that, as you can see, these fields have been populated: latest score 9, latest comment, great response times, and latest received date. We can see the date of today, March 29th, 2025. Fantastic. So that's as well all working. We can click publish, and this Zap is now live as well. Now that we have actually both of this Zap set up, we have the opportunity to test out this whole sequence. So the sending out and then the receiving of the responses for the NPS on another matter. Now, keep in mind that if you have already closed a matter once in Clio Manage, the Zapier automation for the matter closed will not trigger again. So we'll need to do it for another matter. So I've just created another test record. Let's see how it works. So we have this Thompson matter over here for Sarah Thompson with this email demo plus Sarah. As you can see, it's still now open. I will now turn this into closed, and we're going to see if we receive the NPS score survey to our email address. Let's mark it as closed. The matter has been closed. And now let's head to our email and see if we receive that. There we go. In just a second, how likely are you to recommend Swan's legal services to a friend or a colleague? If we go to our Zap runs or Zap history inside of our account, we'll also then be able to see that this first automation for NPS score sending has been executed. Fantastic. Let's actually submit now this response. Let's say, for example, 5. And tell us a bit more. The stuff has been route to me at the office. Let's click submit. And then thanks, we really appreciate your feedback. Now, as you may remember, the second Zap runs about every 2 minutes. So there may be some delay in between receiving the response and actually updating in Clio Manage. But I will just pause the recording now and continue it once that automation has actually been completed. Okay, just about a minute later, the second Zap has been executed, NPS score receiving. Let's head over to Clio and see if our custom fields have been updated. And there we go. 5, this task has been route to me in the office, and the latest received date. Fantastic. We can then obviously see as well that information on the dashboard inside of Delighted. We can see this additional response marked as red for a detractor because it was a score of 5. And also we can then run some reporting upon that, based upon that in inside of Clio Manage directly, right? So we can head over, for example, to the matters screen. Let's open all of them. And as an additional column, we can add a custom field of the NPS. So let's search for that. NPS, let's say latest, no, I don't want to receive date. Let's say NPS latest score, and also then NPS latest comment. Click update columns. And just like that, these two fields have been added over here. And you can quite easily then see in this list directly, right, what NPS scores you're getting for all of your matters directly inside of Clio Manage. Obviously as well, if you do any exports or reporting based upon this information from Clio, you will also then be able to include these additional details as well over there. Now, a few important remarks before we wrap things up. First, a bit of a bug of the platform, but when I first tried sending out the automated emails through Zapier, it actually didn't send out any emails. It added the people to the people list, but didn't actually send out the emails. The way that I was able to solve that, if you're running into the same issue, is you just need to send out one email manually from the platform, and after that, all the automated emails sent through Zapier started executing properly for me, right? How do you do that? Just click edit and send over here. Click on this email button, click survey people. You will potentially need to configure, a few, like how that email will look like based on, what we've done previously, but just introduce one email address over here, right? Let's say hello.swans.co, click next review, and then click send to one person now. You should immediately then receive that one email, And then after that, all the Zapier automated actions will also start working. And potentially you may not face this issue, but just FYI, that's what I had to debug and how I made it work. Now, the second thing is obviously take into account the potential pricing and extra cost of any software that you're using in addition, right, to Clio. Zapier itself should be quite cheap, but they were really just using up one action in each one of these zaps. So it should be quite economical. Now, as for example, the NPS survey product, Delighted itself has the following pricing. So depending on the number of responses that you're getting per month, here's the pricing you're going to get. Obviously, if you're using another platform, that pricing may vary, but something for you to have in mind. And the last thing that I would recommend is actually to not discriminate to whom you're sending out these NPS scores. Now, NPS is an internal tool for you to improve your customer satisfaction. And so you need to make sure that you're getting as close to real data as possible to make sure that you make the right decisions based on that data. So if somebody has absolutely disliked your service, still send the survey to them. Probably they will respond very low. They'll respond 0, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, but that will be valuable insight into your firm's operations. It's not the same as sending out, for example, Google review request. Obviously there you want to optimize it to make sure you get as many positive reviews as possible actually, right? In this case, don't discriminate. Make sure that the NPS score goes out to all of your customers, irregardless of their experience. That would be it for today. NPS scores are extremely important to be able to improve your service offering in any industry, especially in such a high-touch service offering such as actual legal services. So I hope that you got value out of this video. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you like the content, please like this video and subscribe for more. I'm constantly releasing new videos just like this, talking about different automations that you can set up for your law firm. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.